Hello there, I have a layout in process called Birthday Geocache. This is Tracy. And this video is 26 minutes long, I think, because I do a ton of stuff to this layout. It took me a long time. I don't remember exactly how long, but well over 2 hours to do this. So that's a piece of watercolor paper, and it's actually 12 inches long by I think 9 wide. So I'm gonna stamp the background. I'm using that wood stamp, and then I thought that I was going to do a double page layout with this and use 2 pieces of watercolor paper, but ultimately I only end up using the better part of, well, the entire sheet of one of them and then a little bit of the other, which you'll see. So this is that's an antique stamp. It's actually it's metal, and I think they used to use those for forming. Somehow, I don't think they were used for ink. I think that they were used to create an impression, but I'm using it as an ink stamp. And really I'm just kind of playing around here because these Twinkling H20s here to the left, I haven't ever used them before. So I just decided to go for it and have fun. As I was working, that ink hadn't quite dried all the way, so it started mixing with the watercolor, but once it's dry it doesn't mix. So then I start working on this portion that doesn't have any stamps on it, and I'm really just sort of playing around because I haven't used these at all, so I don't know the color, how they come out. I really like them though. The colors are really, really strong, vibrant. So the coverage is really good. So I had fun. Just mixing different colors here. Still trying to avoid the wood because the stamp could still be a little wet. And this is the page that I don't ultimately use for the background and the layout, but I do use it for the title, you'll see. And here's where I finally dig into that stamp, and it is dry, so it doesn't mix anymore. And then I sprayed that with water to kind of get everything to bleed into each other. And then I'm back to this one. And on this one I went for more dark colors, which is why I end up preferring it for this layout, because I'm sort of working with the colors of the clothing in this picture, which it worked out that everybody's clothes in this picture kind of went together, so it was interesting. Okay, now I'm using that paper towel, and you can see how it left the mark of the towel on there, which I was not intending to do, but I love it. I love when things work out like that. So I think I had used a towel from a different roll on the first layout. Or the first, excuse me, watercolor paper. So it was more of a flat towel, where the towel that I grabbed here, because I work in my kitchen and I have a paper towel roll right near me attached to a cabinet. But sometimes I forget I have those towels and I run over to my kitchen and grab those, and I think they were just different towels for whatever reason, different design on them. So anyway, I just love how that worked out. You can see it. You can really see it in the video here. So now I'm going to use some gesso. And here I am just, excuse me, painting it over flat just to create some interest. And then I'm going to use these squares a couple of places. I love using gesso. It's so much fun. And as I was doing it, I was hoping, I hope this, because the paper's dry, but it's not fully like crisp, 100% dry. And I did that on purpose because I was hoping the gesso would absorb a little bit of the ink from underneath, even though I also spray over it. Right here, it did absorb some of the ink from underneath though, and it continued to do that until it fully dried. So it was so great. I love that. And now I'm going to do some doodling all around. I was trying to figure out which pen I wanted to use there. And for now I went with my Tombow. And right there I'm writing I blank Geocache. And I'm going to put a heart there that I have that I made actually. Well, it's a metal piece of jewelry heart that I got, that I painted. It was spray paint. And then I sprayed, while the spray paint was still drying, it was dry to the touch, but not fully dry. Then I sprayed over that with gloss paint, and it crackled. So it's just so cool to finish on it. I really like it. Okay, so you'll see that in a little bit. But right now I am using my Tim Holtz distressor to go around the edges and distress all around, and that worked out really well with that watercolor paper. The edges would tear up real nicely, but not tear in. So it really showed the distressing, which is something I learned about watercolor paper. So now I'm outlining the outside, and I'm doing it real kind of wonky and adding curve to it, and I'm kind of going with the edge of the distressing when I outline there. There's the heart that I made down there, and that's exactly where I'm going to glue it. And you'll see in the end the close-ups. I hope the close-ups show it. I think they do. That crackle that it created using the gloss over the just slightly wet red spray paint. So now I'm figuring out how do I want to mat this picture. And that green and white striped paper is calling out to me because of the sweater that my stepbrother is wearing there. It has that green in it, but I don't end up using it. But you can see I have, you know, one of my other boys is wearing a darker green, and then my son's wearing a dark or a black and shirt, and then my other two kids are wearing a deep blue. So the colors are, you know, lots of greens and blues in the shirts, so it just really went with those sparkling H2O, the vibrancy of those paints, so it was just perfect. So anyway, that green and white paper, I am going to use that down there to the left because it just was so meant to be on this paper with, on this page with his shirt with those colors. But because I have it sort of off to the side, it is more of like an extra. It just makes it feel more eclectic as opposed to not matching, and also as opposed to being matchy-matchy. So it just went, I think also because of the colors, there's some greens and yellows in the painted paper as well. Okay, so here I am with this fabric again. I had tried to make this work in my last layout and it didn't work, and I really was wanting to do this. So then I realized, oh, if I lay it, you know, put it out on my can't remember what that thing's called, my surface that I'm working on there, and then soak it up, maybe that'll create the look I'm looking for. So I just keep spraying it with water and I'm getting it wet and then adding more paint, and I want it to really look like it was almost like a rag. And then now I'm dipping it in, you can't see the paint, the water there, but I'm dipping it in my dirty paint water. So there, now you can see that I really used that paint water to dye that fabric the rest of the way. So now here I'm doing some funky doodling on these two strips. One is a manufacturer strip and one is a paper that I used from, I think it's the April Studio Calico kit, and I do not remember the name of the paper right now. So I just had fun with some crazy doodling on there to go with my other doodling. And that's about how I'm going to do it. So now I've sewn it down. I sewed each of those strips down to the left, and then I sewed around the entire edge of the watercolor paper. So that's all sewn down, and then I did do a little jagged, what do you call that? Not jagged, stitch. Oh, can't remember the name of the stitch. To the left there on the green and white paper. And now I'm kind of fiddling around with a bunch of goodies. That little metal tin has tons of vintage buttons. So I'm playing with that, and then I have little metal findings and such that I've purchased that I want to use. And then at the bottom right corner and the top left corner, those are some metal. Oh, and then also on the picture, that's right, I used 3 of them, I think. Yes, I do. Those are metal corner, like filigree, or however you call that, cut out metal pieces that I purchased on eBay. I think I bought 10 of them or something like that. And I spray painted them a turquoise, and then I used I have this antiquing medium that I just rub my finger in it, and then I rub it over the paint, And that's how I came up with that sort of antique-y look on that. I have that. The spray paint is just spray paint from, I think this particular color I got at Walmart. And I have some spray paints that I got at Home Depot as well. And then here's more that little flower that I have the button in. I just recently got that as well. You can see I stopped and started a lot on this, doing this layout, because I would go away, like I went away and painted those, the metal things that I'm gluing down the corners, and I just happened to get interrupted a lot as well. I had to go pick up kids, and as usual. So I'm going to use my hot glue gun on the little pieces I have here that I'm putting all around, because that's just the best way to get these to sit down, to glue them down and to be able to also work with them. So now I'm tying some thread through, which this is the same thread I used all the way around. It's a dark blue. And I'm using that, I'm putting it through this vintage button that I have, and just going to tie a knot just for a little bit of extra interest. And then here's some little like metal gears and stuff. They're not real gears, they're simulated gears and stuff, like if they were from a watch. I think Tim Holtz sells that kind of stuff too. These are from, so I got them like on Etsy I think, or eBay, one of those. Oh, there's my good old, that's the antiquing gel. I don't know what I just used that on, but oh, on my, I have some little geotags there that I had sprayed with the bluish turquoise, it's not turquoise, but paint, and then I used the antiquing gel or medium on those as well. Rubbed it on with my fingers. And now I'm just trying to create some flowers, and this doesn't work, but it was worth the effort. And then here I am doing washi tape, and I end up pulling that off too. Sometimes, you know, in order to figure out what does work, you got to go through what doesn't work, and this was definitely one of those times. I ended up getting interrupted at one point. I think it's when I went to drive to pick up my kids is when I had the epiphany that I wanted some fabric flowers there. So I go and get them out of my stash. Here's, yep, I'm tearing it off. Don't like it at all. Oh, I tried different washi first. Here's where I finally get rid of it. There's the fabric ones. Trying to crumple up that. It's like a fabric paper kind of stuff. It's by Jolie. And I tried to create a flower out of it, which it looked okay. It wasn't horrible. But it didn't create the look I was really looking for, so I think right now I'm digging away in my flowers. Should have paused while I went and did that. There we go. Here's some, I think, yeah, those are Prima flowers that I had in my stash from ages ago. And I'm going to play around with those now. So I don't want them too frilly, over the top flowery, because that's obviously not the look of this page. Still trying to make that little flower work. And I have to fiddle with this for, you know, move it around 100 different ways before I'm happy. That's just what I do. I think to the right, yeah, is almost done. That's how it's gonna be. And to the left too, almost. So I'm gluing down different pieces and using the end of my paintbrush when I'm don't want to get burned by the glue gun. And then here I realize that white glue is not going to work. I really love that flower right there. The one in my hand right now. It's so cute. It's like a brass flower. And then I have a vintage button that I glued inside. And I love those brass little flower leaf things. So cute. These fabric flowers are prima too. I got those at Scrapbooking Expo a couple of years ago actually. I used to scrapbook a lot more with flowers and especially these dry flowers, but I just haven't been doing that in the last more than a year. I think because of getting kits. The 2 kits I get are not that kind of a look. There, that cluster now to the right, that's finally done. Still playing around with that. So I move on over to this one because I'm really liking that pretty much. And that has vintage buttons and a wood geotag and a flower and a little jewelry finding that says love. There we go. That's how I do it. And now I need to, I'm going to put this third corner down. Those are hard to glue down because they have a lot of little airspace because it's stamped metal. So it's kind of tough. Once you get them down, they're solid. But gotta apply pressure for a little while to make them stay. So now I cut out with my silhouette the word birthday from that other page of watercolor paper. And then I cut a different piece of the watercolor paper and put it behind so that a different color of the watercolor page is coming through. And now I outline the outside, and now I'm outlining the word on the inside to really help make it stand out, because it was kind of lost. But when I do this outlining, it really makes it stand out, so I like that a lot. And then I'm going to use these to write Geocache. I knew where I wanted the geocache to end, so that's why I started working from the end. I had to use that Aleene's glue to glue the birthday, because that's really thick. And then also gluing on top of all that gesso and everything, you really need a tacky glue as opposed to the ATG. So here's the close-ups, and you can see all my sewing and the detail of all the little goodies that I used. That's the gesso and my doodling around it, and there's the title. And here is the bottom right cluster, and there's where you can see that flower. So I had tons of fun doing this layout. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click like and subscribe if you want to see more. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.